Islam, peace and love to all. Welcome to One Thursday in History School, MHHS Eyes Wide Open blog talk program, broadcast that is, national principles of nationality and action. I am RVBey, your host tonight, and I know I'm here with my co-host. But before we get, let me just make sure that I get Ms. Rain. Ms. Rain, are you there?
Peace and love, man. I'm here. Pardon me, I didn't press Uno in the chat room. I mean, in the queue.
You sure did not. Right. What's that for you? And cool, Joe. I don't see him. 416, right? Is it 416? Okay, I see it. I see it. I'm just going to make sure. Oh, he just dropped out. Oh, here he is. All right. 92 Joe, are you with us?
Islam, I'm here. I just had a Miz episode. I forgot to press 1.
You just had what? You forgot to press 1 too? Oh, all right, got you. Yeah,
yeah.
I used to do that all the time.
Yeah,
but I'm kidding. I got a big cure.
What's good?
All right.
Well, before we even continue, I just want to reaffirm again, if I could put my 2 cents in, bro, keep doing your live streams on Tuesdays on YouTube. Just keep them on YouTube, bro. You know what I mean? Just keep doing that. Great broadcast tonight, for sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, first, before we get started, I want to I got a message from Sister Anna E. First, she wants to say thank you to all of those who have sent either cards or emails, messages of any kind. We truly, truly appreciate that you receive them, and she's saying thank you tonight. And also, she would like to ask to please continue to be patient for those who are waiting for their field documents. They are coming. She is working on them.
You sound a little muffled and low. You sound a little muffled and low. Yeah.
Do I sound better now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm so used to turning my phone down because I have these other apparatuses, but this will work so much better. So I hope that everyone heard clearly that Sister Anna E. says thank you for all of the emails, cards, letters, whatever you have sent. She appreciates them. She wants us to say thank you for that, and also request that you continue to be patient for those who are waiting for their field documents. She's working on them in between and has been, and will be right on track shortly. So I want to make sure I get that out the way. Now, there's a couple things we're actually going to talk about. I forgot to add this to the syllabus, and I don't know if Anna Eve is able to, she also keeps putting the syllabus onto the Facebook page, etc. But we are going to be talking about some of the, as well as talking about the,
you still sound a little muffled and low, like you need to be directly into it to the mic, like.
All right. Now, if this doesn't get it, then I gotta remove this apparatus. How do I sound?
That sounds a lot more clear, like certainly.
Okay. Yeah, my speaker is wrong. Okay. All right. So we are going to be speaking about this big concern about the warrantless arrest that can be issued through, talking about HR, House Joint Resolution 76 that we just done. All right, this is going to be such a great comprehensive example for us all, because although under HR 76 through Congress, resolution, etc., believe me, we're going to just break that down real quick. In addition to that, tonight we're going to go back to what's really happening that we really need to be paying attention to as well, because believe me, these things, some of these things are just effort, and those who are operating on the land seeming to be government, and you believe that they are your government, or that they are, have some authority over you, the natural people. We're going to talk about some of the prophecies. Definitely talk about floods, because one of you is going to pull out. I know it's going to be humans, and we directly, at a point in time, what the prophet said. I believe in the divine warning about, hey, if you don't get this thing straight, the great God of Allah the great God of the universe will not be happy, and there will be floods.
No. He said that the great God of the universe is not pleased.
Happy.
Will not pleased. Like, is not at the present moment he was speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
all right.
At that time he was saying that, and that applies even right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Even right now.
So that's what we need to be paying attention to. Did you say something?
No, I mean, in the back of my head, I'm just thinking you was mentioning about what Nova Drew Ali said, and we was bugging out the other night because of what George Bush said. I was just thinking relative to the water and floods when Bush was giving a public speech, and I don't know what inspired him to say, but he was like, I know that human beings and fish can coexist peacefully. Like, I don't know what inspired him to say that in his speech, but I just thought of that when you was mentioning the flood. Like, sometimes they say some of the most retarded things I ever heard of came from these people who were supposed to be in positions of power. So I don't know. I was just thinking to myself.
Yeah. Well, just make sure. It's interesting. I just want to make sure that I want to show a comprehensive understanding, or the lack of comprehension, actually, in some of our cases, or that we haven't been taught, been guided to believe, or trained and guided to not really deal with our being as, as natural reflections of our beings, and we've been, we concern ourselves with what these modern Europeans are doing. Quite frankly, what's happening now, well, you'll be able to figure this out. Let me just say this. So there was an HR 76, I forgot to put the date, but it just happened Tuesday, right? Mars Day, Action Day. And, we got a few calls, emails, concerns, and even some other people, the way they write it up on the media, they say warrantless, searches, warrantless, going against the Constitution, Amendment 4, going against it. So I'm like, all right. Then I looked at it. Now, I gave this a decent review of it, and this came up immediately with the problem that we really not just have now, but have had over the generations, and that has allowed these things to get to where they are today, which is what it is all about, bringing ourselves out of the mental slavery and being who we are. Now, that is the direct instruction, and what we probably would be best to do is concentrate on that, because from that you will find the resolution you're looking for, the resolve, and you will find the salvation you may be looking for. You will find the Savior that you're looking for. It has already been said what it is to do. So there is this HR 76. Now, what is it? It's a compact between who? Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, and their 10-mile district, 10-mile arena there. However, the state of Maryland and the Commonwealth of Virginia has joined in with this compact to help secure them. So feel a little bit unsafe.
Hold on, you sound a little muffled still. Like you need to speak directly into the mic.
All right. speaker. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
We heard you, but you sound a lot more clear.
All right, now I got to turn this down so I don't have any feedback. How am I sounding now? Please let me know.
You sound crystal clear, crystal clear.
Then.
You need to stay right there with what you're doing. Yeah.
It's me and electronics. I'm telling you. All right, so I don't even know what to. I do know what to say first. First thing we need to recognize is that I printed out my notes. I was trying to type them out so I wouldn't have to go into my phone thing to look at them. But the first thing is that this is a establishment, an organization, and its agencies. All right, pursuant to, guided by USC 49, which is the Department of Transportation's program. This House Joint Resolution 76 is simply allowing these people who are supposed to be involving themselves with the administering of the safety plan for transportation and everything that moves and carries people and the employees and the drivers of such, starting with trains, all right? It is regarding that, first and foremost, pursuant and guided by, again, Title 49, USC 49. So first you would realize when you go to USC 49, it is for that program and for drivers who are and employees or any driver. You don't have to be an employee to be a driver, as you already know. If you decide that you want to, that you're going to be for hire, you are a driver. You then go under those regulations of the federal program from the Department of Transportation, who then contracted it out to the states or who then allowed the states to participate in that program, and then the states contract it out, and that's where you get your policy enforcers out enforcing what? Enforcing the USC 49. That's what's so crazy about this. It's like, people go, it's a new rule and a new law. No, they're enforcing USC 49. What is that? The Department of Transportation, what is that for those who are drivers? Actually, it's more of a reason why we need to make sure we clear from that, and certainly right now clear about this, all right? Because, look, like if you go to USC 49, USC 5329, which is what they say they're basing this off, that's deception. It's all about safety. This is a safety program. They are getting together and establishing an organization to enhance and enforce public safety as far as transportation is concerned. That's first and foremost. So now when you get into, let's do this. So I went through it a little bit. I don't read every single line because the first article, what are they going to do? They're going to tell you the parties involved. And I tell you, that's Article 1. Definitions when they define. It's so important when you get in the contract because, see, if they were talking about one thing, they might call it something else, and every time you see this other something else word, you think it means what it's written to mean, but you got to look at the definitions because it tells you, nope, whenever you see this word, it means that. And this is part of where we get tricked up, too. So the parties involved is in Article 1. Whenever they say the board, it means the board of directors of the commission. Whenever they say the commission, it means the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission. Whenever they say member, it means a member of the board. Whenever they say NSC compact, it means the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission Interstate Compact, all right? Right? And then when they say Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, it means the comprehensive agency safety plan for a rail transit. That means, trains originally. Rail Transit Agency required by, back to what? 49 U.S.C. 5329. Right?
Hold on.
So when you go to 49, yes?
I don't mean to cut your wisdom. But can you make it clear for the record that you're talking about a so-called act that was passed that they was talking about having warrantless searches specifically for the corporate states of Maryland, Virginia, and what was the other one? Make that clear that was the specifics of what you're talking about, not for everywhere. It's like a test run.
But it's deeper than that. The compact is between Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, State of Maryland, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. In essence, they just all got together and created a commission, created an organization and agencies attached to it. Okay, so that's clear. That's what they did. Now, let's look at this, because it's a little deeper than that. It's all pursuant to USC 49, which is Department of Transportation. This is about public safety as far as public transportation. That's what it's about. But I'm going to get to where the warrant comes in. And, we all really should laugh. Well, we should all laugh because that's just what I'm saying. So, between the District of Columbia, the State of Maryland, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. All right? So, I named the board of directors within this contract. I'm not going to be done. I'm just identifying the parties within this contract, of which the contract or compact is for the purpose of establishing something new, a new WMTA, which is an organization with its agencies for the purpose of public transportation safety. Under and pursuant to the rules in 49 USC, that is the federal program for public transportation and all drivers. All right? Meaning you are navigating or you're operating whatever machine, train, bus, plane, whatever you're operating, including a vehicle, for the purposes of being hired. You're being hired to do that, to carry cargo, goods, whatever. That's the program. So now, again, so now it's a G when they say Public Transportation Safety Certification Training Program. That means the federal certification training program as established by the federal laws and regulations, right? Now, let's prove this. Here's what we're saying. We're saying that this is a federal program that states, which are considered recipients, are allowed, or state or local government authorities or any other operator of a public transportation system that receives financial assistance under the chapter, meaning they are getting paid. The local so-called government in the states, right, they actually get paid for implementing the federal program, transportation program. They get paid for administering it. So here it is, right here in 49 USC, the definition. Recipient means state or local governmental authority or any other operator of a public transportation system that receives financial assistance under this chapter. And B is National Public Transportation Safety Plan. So, pursuant to this, to the transportation safety, is what they have formed this new organization. Everybody says has warrantless search on it. Warrantless search on it. All right. So I'm just identifying, and this is necessary at this point. In this, they also have, again, the definition of who the parties are. I said the board, the commission, the member means member of the board. The MSC compact means the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission. The MSC compact means, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. That is USC, all right, pursuant to. And then the Public Transportation Safety Certification Training means that is the federal certification training program that must be established in all employees, et cetera, like that. And then safety-sensitive position means any position held by the WMATA employee, so that's the new organization, right, or contractor that is designated in the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan for WMATA rail system and approved by the commission as directly or indirectly affecting the safety of the passengers of or employees of the WMTA rail system. And then we have the signatories of this thing. Who are the signatories? State of Maryland, Commonwealth of Virginia, and the District of Columbia. So whenever you see the word jurisdiction in this thing, it means the District of Columbia, the State of Maryland, or the Commonwealth of Virginia. It says so right in it. This is what I'm saying. All right. And then it has Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority or the WMATA is the entity that has been created as a result of this. It's the WMATA Compact, which entity is responsible for what? For providing certain rail, fixed, guideway, public transportation services. The WMATA Compact means the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority Compact, which was approved on November 6, 1966 under Statute 80-1324, DC Official Code. And lastly, WMATA Rail System or Metro Rail means the rail fixed guideway public transportation system and all other real and personal property is owned, leased, operated, or otherwise used by WMATA Rail Service and shall include WMATA rail projects under design or construction by owners other than WMATA. Question, do you see yourself in any of that? Anywhere on there, did they say anything about you, the natural people? Are you involved in that contract? Question.
Exactly.
That's a question to ponder. No. All right. So let's do this. What is the purpose of this thing? The signatories, which we just see, this is where they say the signatories to the WMATA Compact. Now you should already know, go back, well, who's the signatories? We're going to say it again. The State of Maryland, Commonwealth of Virginia, and District of Columbia, all being corporations, by the way. Oh, did I forget to say that? Okay. And the purpose is pursuant again to what? To 49 U.S.C. 5329, to create a state safety, because the 5329 deals with safety in regards to the USC 49 Department of Transportation for all those who are drivers operating any public transportation vehicles, again, trains, planes, whatever. So to create a state safety oversight authority for the WMTA rail system pursuant to the mandate of federal law as a common agency of each signator. So that means back to each signator. State of Maryland, Commonwealth of Virginia, District of Columbia, what are they doing? Creating an agency. All right. Empowered in the manner hereinafter set forth to review, approve, oversee, and enforce the safety of the WMATA rail system, including without limitations to. Now here comes the part that we all want. I'm not reading the whole thing. I jumped to Article 4, Section 31. In performing its duty, the Commission, through its board or designated employees or agents, may, 31A, here's where the warrant stuff comes in, conduct or cause to be conducted investigations, examinations, and testing of WMATA personnel and contractors. Does that sound like natural people to you? I don't think so. They're not even talking about you. But because we are so unknowledgeable of these things, we just assume, we make assumptions, but there are no assumptions in law. So, let me continue on with this. Property, they should inspect, investigate, examine the WMATA personnel and contractors' property, equipment, facilities, rolling stock. They can even look at their stock. Oh, my goodness. This is corporate talk here. And or operations of the WMTA rail system, including without limitation the electronic information and databases through reasonable means, which may include issuance of subpoenas. Still, not for the natural people. All right. Lastly, B. This is where it really comes in. Enter upon the WMATA rail system, and upon reasonable notice and finding by the Chief Executive Officer that a need exists upon what? Any lands, waters, and premises adjacent to the WMAT rail system. Does that sound like your house? Including, without limitation, property owned or occupied by the federal government for the purpose of making inspections, investigations, examinations, and testing. Because remember, the federal government is it's a federal program. And they're allowed to enhance their safety procedures to secure the public safety regarding transportation. They're allowed to create agencies to do such that. That's where you go back to 49 U.S.C. 5329, which this is pursuant upon. Them being able to create and establish agencies to enforce what? The transportation's public safety. All right?
Quick interjection.
Yes.
Quick interjection. So based on what you've been reading so far, the part about warrants came what you just read just now, or leading up to. Okay. Now we have to acknowledge the propaganda campaign, because the article was pushed from a perspective that this has something to do with warrants and people getting their doors kicked in and stuff like that. This is how it was presented to me. Like when people were sending this thing around, like they're sending around from the mindset that what a warrant is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
yes.
No, because when it got sent to me, I was looking at it from the perspective, well, they already do warrantless searches, so what are you guys excited about? Like they do that already. Like, what do you mean they came together and now they're gonna do warrantless searches? Like, they've been doing warrantless searches. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I didn't even read the thing. I was just like, well, whatever. But now that you're reading it now, and I'm hearing what this is about. I'm wondering who the hell made the freaking flyer. Yeah, who made the flyer for this thing that got all these people caught thinking that this is some congressional order of something about people are going to get their doors kicked in or something like that. This is
look, man. This is why I want to have the conversation, because you're about to get me started on a whole nother path.
I want to finish this to make your comment, and I want to call it.
Like, yo, it's crazy out here, man. The smiles in the face and the backstabs, bro. That's all I'm gonna leave that on. I ain't even want to talk about it.
I'm glad, Cujo, that you. I'm glad that you picked up on that right away. Thank you. But that's the reason why I'm sharing this. You know, because we can say to people, well, that's really not for us. And here's the truth. It isn't, it isn't. However, and this however goes to the people, this is how they have managed to do, as you said, warrantless searches in the past, because they will put out stuff similar to this, and we believe that it's valid, correct, the law, and it isn't. And because we have done that over the generations, they have gotten very used to it, and they're still doing it. So it's like, what you going to do? They've been getting away with it. They've been feeding their families and doing all the stuff they want to do with it off of our ignorance. And the same, and now you brought up something else, which is also to consider, the slander campaign. Oh, let's take this and put it out there. But let me just finish the show. I just want to make it clear that it did clearly say 4. This one says, including limitation property owned or occupied by the federal government for the purpose of making inspections, investigations, examinations, and testing as the commission may deem necessary to carry out the purposes of this MSC combat, and such entry shall not be deemed a trespass. The Commission shall make reasonable reimbursement for any actual damage, that means when they knock the doors down, resulting to any such adjacent lands, waters, and premises as a result of such activity. So we always said that when they make statutes or agencies with their rules, regulations, policies, they're not, you have to look at who they are for. That their administrative rules and policies, it's not affecting your right to, to be safe in your papers, places, and effect. It doesn't. It's not even. Here's the deal. It ain't even talking about you. It's not even talking about you, but because they know we're so ignorant, they'll slip this stuff through. So now getting back to why the Congress did it, so they make it like, oh my, the Congress did it. Because, let me explain this. The Department of Transportation program established by the federal, is a federal program for the purpose of transportation safety, public safety, meaning those who are drivers are to keep the people that they carry, the cargo that they carry, safe. So they have safety programs, and they're allowed to establish agencies for that reason. That is all they have done here. And then it's specifically, when we say you have to look at who it is, it's for. Specifically, that's what we've just done. And if we would do this or have done it or continue to do this, we would understand there's no need to get all in the panties in a bunch. But there is a need for those to have knowledge of what is being said and done. Now, this proves to you that this stuff is not for you, so get your head out of it. And how about spending some more time into, what's happening that affects you in terms of the floods and what the great God of Allah is doing to fix these wrongs on your land. Now, I will say this. In short, this is simply establishing an organization and agencies of said organization for the purpose of public safety regarding transportation pursuant to USC 49-4329, which is Department of Transportation Program for Public Transportation Safety. Okay? I will say that what it sounds like to me, just a thought, that they circling in the wagons around the D.C. 10-mile district, and, some of the corporations are saying, hey, we'll compact, that's what's happening, we'll compact with you to keep you safe, because I'm thinking that, I told you a few weeks ago or whatever, and this part right here is just my opinion, that I wouldn't be surprised if they don't try to come and rain down on that White House and burn it down again. Now, so anything that they do and they're talking about, they specifically said it. They specifically said it. Buildings adjacent to the railway. That's who they can go and do that to. However, employees, y'all should have been looking at that, especially if you're an employee of it, because ain't nobody knocking your JOB. But if you're an employee of it, guess what? It says clearly 31A. The testing of the personnel and contractors, the inspections, the investigations, examinations, of your property, your equipment, your facilities, your stock, and all of that, and your electronics, which means your iPad and all that, and databases through reasonable means. Why? Because you're an employee too close to the District of Columbia who's got their ass on fire right now. Everybody hates them, including a lot of the so-called citizens and hate groups and stuff. That's what it sounds like to me, that they just trying to close up, their own damn safety. See, we need to be looking at it like that because we ought to know. That's another way we need to be looking at it, because we ought to know that they are going down. And their only area was the District of Columbia, which is a 10-mile district, and all they just did is padded up with some of their daggone friends corporation called the Commonwealth of Virginia and the, what's the other, state of Maryland, to say, yeah, all right, I got your back. will come together and help enforce the safety when it looks like it's the public safety shoe. That's their safety, period. And so that just needs to be made clear, and we need to I trust that what I just did helps in us understanding how imperative it is for us to get out of this mental slavery and also to learn how to comprehensively read something. Now, back to what Cujo said, absolutely. There is nothing but and I wanted to say this, and then we're going to go into the flood, because that's what we really should be looking at. The naysayers, the slanderers, and the infiltrators and agents to keep you scared because as people will becoming conscious, and so they're trying to put you back down into that pot, you know what I mean? So, and then the other reason why they may have headed it like this is because they simply do not know. So we can assist or the do not know by reading these things comprehensively. I trust that it will help reduce that. And as far as reducing the infiltrators, I don't know that there's anything that anyone can do for that, because they'll be taken care of in their due time as well. It's like there's a statement that says, let them show who they are, and we gave them the delusion so that they can show who they are, so that the truth can shine. So that's how I see that, because that's what's happening right now. The agitation is truth against falsehood, and it's becoming very clear of the strange mixture of both. You have to decide where you are. Don't worry about where someone else is, because you got to save your own self in terms of these understandings. Your Savior is within. So I am trusting that this example of this comprehensive reading of what it is, and then you will be able to see that when someone puts out some headings like that, they're either trying to scare you because they're infiltrators, or they simply do not know. And neither one is good. So, again, to segue into what we need to be looking at, and I will say this, and then yield the floor. When this thing in Texas...
One.
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, too, just because you were speaking about them saying who they are.
Yes.
And in line with knowing for yourself. So in the beginning when you were reading, as soon as you said signatory, I already know that they're fraud, because signatories are between nations doing treaties.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a signatory, it's because there's a treaty somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nations that are engaging in the treaty. And we already know that they're not no nation, so they could call themselves signatory all they want.
Right.
But that doesn't qualify that they are who they say they are, especially when they're giving you specific jurisdictions that they're playing in, which clearly lets you know that they're not a nation. So they can't be a signatory. So this whole thing that they wrote up or whatever is BS.
Exactly.
Dummy treaty.
Exactly. And even with that, the signatories of the state of Maryland, the Commonwealth of Virginia, the District of Columbia, I mean, when did they, those are corporations. So if we fall into that, hey, it just doesn't, we have to, as you say, learn what applies, what doesn't apply, what is and what is not. The thing we're missing is called what the prophet said, the study. So, that was just a quick review study right there. I didn't even read the whole thing because I read who it's between, what is the purpose, and I definitely went to that part in 4 where it talks about these searches and see. I said, oh, my goodness. It's for the employees. Well, and the buildings that they can break down is the one, all right, here's what you do. if you are in the 10-mile district of District of Columbia, go find out the building that is adjacent to the railway there. That's the one. It specifically says that. Specifically. But now, if you walk up like Simple Simon and one of them employees exploits this and tells you they can or whatever like that under this authority, well, guess what? You know that's not true because this authority, we just told you, it says in the damn contract who it's for. So the reason why, I wanted to say, because people say, oh, the Congress did it. Well, it's only based on the federal program of the Department of Transportation. What we need to recognize is they've been exploiting because they're defined. That the recipients are the states and the local government, and they get paid to administer the transportation program. And guess what? You got case law that says that it doesn't apply to the natural people, USC 49. How about looking into that and putting that out, that the USC 49 transportation does not apply to travelers, and that these people who have been allowed and are getting paid to administer the program, definition A, all right, those people are administering it and exploiting your behind, telling you that you are a driver and that you are under that federal program that they are already getting paid to administer, and are sending false reports that they got thousands and thousands of drivers because they coerced you from high school to think that you needed to have a driver's license, which means that that you were being paid, right, in order to navigate on the roads, that's what you had to have. That's a lie. Then they went and sent them false reports saying, look how many drivers we have. Please continue to pay us for administering the driver's program. That's what you ought to be more concerned about, clearing up and putting out on Facebook and wherever the heck you post about that. And then having the backup knowledge to support it, because it's already there. When that program was put out, it was also supported that you can travel upon the roads without that license instrument. Their hands are done. They wash their hands. It's all there. It is up to you, the people, us, to enforce that which is our liberties. Us, because the driver's program ain't got jack to do with the natural people that want to travel from point A to damn point B. It really does not. Why not put as much energy into this as that you put into this bull that isn't for you? Why don't you put it into that fact and free yourself? Now, that doesn't mean that, you should go out and, navigate recklessly, because you do owe one thing to the public. Oh, yeah, you do. And it's called due care. Now, let's examine that. Do we have due care? Probably not, because we're not civilized in that respect. And that's why the Prophet started a civic organization to teach you how to be civil to self and others. And those bylaws go in there, and this is what I want to say. Article 3, all the slander, all the stuff like that. You know what I mean? Or Principle 3, all the slander, all the stuff like that that's going on. Put your energy somewhere else. You want to get another result from your life, put it somewhere else. But if you are paid or not paid, infiltrator or agent, your fate is in your own hands, and whatever's going to happen to you is going to happen to you. Everybody needs to be concerned about what's going to happen to them, because this right here is getting ready to fall. It is falling apart. And so the great God of the universe, the warning that we had about the floods, I say this. Corpus Christi, I don't know if you all know what Corpus Christi, Texas. Not only did it flood, it got burnt down. You know that is one of the richest, so-called richest places. All the politicians go there. And when they go to Texas and stuff, it's absolutely, exclusive. Well, the great God of Allah not only flooded them out with 3 feet of water and more, inches of water. You talk about like, oh, we're getting 5 inches of rain today. No, they got feet in the feet arena. So it flooded it, and then all that water, it probably due to electrical shortages, that daggone thing burned down. All right? There is signs and symbols all over, for real. And the other thing I wanted to say about it, and this was brought to my attention by Brother Montiel, he told me that when the first day when it hit Texas, and then everybody came outside later because they thought it was okay, and little, whatever flooding was, whatever. And then around 7 o'clock at night, it hit again, and they still rolling through it right now. The entire state. That storm is moving at 3 miles an hour, meaning it's going to slow walk and make sure it destroys all of that. All right? And when it stopped, it was pulling water. Like, what did it? It literally stopped. And that's why they thought it was okay. Because you got to think of storms and floods and winds as energy, because it is. So it was pulling the water from the Gulf of Mexico. Like, it was almost like stopping at a station and pouring the water on. And then when it pulled the water, forcefully into the storm cipher, then it began to move. So around 7, 8 o'clock, that's why they still flooded today. So these are the things we need to be looking at and put ourselves in a place of divine protection. And with that, I yield the floor.
As you say, divine protection, that's divine protection is the high ground.
Yeah.
Because
literally,
remember Aquarian age, we're being flooded right now. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but
yeah.
Don't get it twisted. As above, so below. Like it's not a joke. It's real. Stuff that Moor's been teaching, manifesting. Right? You really think that this man's not a prophet? Really? For real? You really think that the resolution to all the problems does not lie in what he brought? When 2017, 10:21 p.m., we're seeing it happen in front of our face on the news right now, what Noble Drew said, happening right now.
Yeah.
So people play all they want to play. They don't give honors to the prophet. You know what I mean? Give thanks to Allah for sending us a prophet for real in this electrifying age where the electric stuff's not even working because there's water everywhere. What electric? What?
Yeah.
Better get up on the solar.
Electric something? Yeah, you're right. So Islam to Brother RVBey. He's on his solar panel. You know what I mean? Hustle. That's what he's on. You know what I mean?
All right.
The prophets. He's seen it coming.
I'll tell you what, that would be a great thing to get into. Yeah. Yeah, because
if this is not a sign, to get into it, nothing is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The sun would shine as long as it shines, but water has to run off. Ain't no sun getting rid of all that water. Water has to run off.
True.
But Texas is terrible. They doesn't call themselves the Lone Star. There's a lot of bad history there. I found out that they still
remember,
have.
Remember, when we say judgment on Texas right now, we're not just talking about how they took native land and all that type of stuff, because that's really Mexico and all that. We're not even talking about that.
That's right.
We're saying recent. Remember, even Mother Pilar, she was in Texas.
Yeah.
Remember all the corrupt stuff that they were doing with her. Everybody's getting their judgment right now. They could pretend like, we're the judge of the whatever. Well, swim, judge. Swim. Because you're really a magistrate and you've been violating people's rights for generations. Yeah. And since these Negroes aren't gonna fix the problem, then we're gonna step in for the Negroes.
Yeah.
And
just to put it out there too, before you continue, just to put it out there, if the brother Abdul Shakur and his wife is listening, just call in tonight to let us know y'all good, because we know y'all are out in that area. I'm not sure where. Yeah, but that's fame. So I mean, if y'all are listening and y'all are good, please call in to let us know that.
But no, also, Cujo, what you're saying too, it just brings just something. There's so much, there's so much happening all the time. But what about that? I know we're going to talk about some things that are going current events, as we would say it. But you're talking about Texas. What about Arizona? That so-called judge that they had charged with a so-called the sheriff. I'm sorry, the sheriff. Was charged because he was having prisoners dress up in pink and all that crazy shit, and then Trump went and what's that word called? Pardoned him before they even got a chance to sentence him. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy stuff going on. But yeah, continue with what you were saying about Texas.
Yeah. But so it's be on the high road right now. Be on the upper plains, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do like the animals. They don't play when nature starts giving them signs that something drastic is going to happen. And they don't say, we'll just stay and see what happens because, you know what I mean? Trying to make a mockery of nature. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not going to be sorry. Like, you can't stop nature. Like, you can hold a guy down from kicking you down. You know what I mean? You're not putting a wall up to stop nature. And again, like, it's also signifying the torment that even the mothers are going through right now, with having to deal with this same occupational force, which is getting its judgment, but, some damage is already done. You know what I mean? And certain things we know are irreparable when we look at our condition. Mm-hmm. There's a generation of people that have diabetes in their family. What do you mean? How you have that? What is that? What initiated that? That's something that just runs through your bloodline now. Sickle cell and all this stuff. Things that we never used to have.
Yo, but if I may, can I point out something too? As far as like the universal aspect of justice that's going with, quote unquote, Texas getting pounded by this hurricane that they're calling Harvey, or the southern region of North America, or the Gulf Coast, that Noble Drew Ali said that there was a sickness from the land that had to be removed to save it from enormous earthquakes, hurricanes, etc. Like, he specifically talked about, the sin from the land must be removed. That was his message. The sin from the land has to be removed in order to save it from enormous earthquakes, hurricanes, etc. And thinking about, like, the universal justice of this that's happening, in you know, I'm not saying that to say, oh, everybody out there is getting what they deserve, you know, because there's people who may not have been a part of any wrongdoing who are just, you know, in the way of the clearing out, you know.
Right.
But think about the universal justice of this, right? So-called Bush was from that area, and they waged war on Moors in the East over resources called oil, right? But hold on, though. Texas, so the area of North America that they call Texas is rich with oil, meaning that everything that they told people they was looking for in the East is right here in North America. Right here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Within the jurisdiction of Northwest Mexum. You understand that? So all of that fertile land out there that has these resources, oil, you know, cotton, all of these things, their conspiratorial efforts to discredit Moors, specifically in that area, going back to what you were saying about the Sister Pilar when she was taking her stance, her measure against these people who, it matter to them who, they just don't want to see Moors rise up. You know what I mean? They don't want to really see people get free through their, I don't even want to call it a judicial system, but, you know, their platforms to keep people subjugated or feeling inferior, or their platform or medium to bestow types of inferior treatments and injustices that they care to bestow. So, you know, when you look at the total perspective of what's happening right now, the fact that all the resources that they could ever claim is wanted from the East is already right here in North America. And they really don't have a justified claim to that or that in the East. These are warfare military tactics that are being employed. And this is what we're looking at. And even to the aspect of, you know, what they legislated. I mean, Noble Drew Ali, he was talking natural law when he was talking about, you know, this great sin that has to be removed from the land in order to save it from earthquakes. Already you talking natural law. I don't know if that's me giving feedback, but I don't believe so. But if that could be cut out, that would be great. But nonetheless, he wasn't talking about, he was talking about natural law, specifically cause and effect, when he was talking about, you know, this greed and the sin that's on the land and the repercussions for it will be that based in nature, specifically earthquakes. It just makes me think like it doesn't matter who, I mean, it matters who's who and what's what, but no matter what position of power you think you are in, you cannot trump Mother Nature. Like, it's just not possible. You know, you can make up all the rules that you want, come up with all the ideas and philosophies that you like that are not based in nature, but nature is going to continuously show herself supreme to anything that man or sets up. Bottom line, that's just what's happening. So even with them making legislation talking about they're going to violate, you know, or have warrantless searches, I mean, when you look at it in a certain context, they've been doing that for a while now, even with the public transportation and the railways and all of that. Because I recall even taking a railway one time and, you know, nobody in the line consented to a search, but nonetheless, they were bringing the canine through, or the so-called German Shepherd, you know what I mean, to just, like, there's a line of people. Everybody has luggage and baggage that's on the ground, and they're just walking the canine past because the dog sits low so it could get a whiff of all the bags that are basically, you know, being carried on wheels by people or laid on the ground while they wait. So this is a sneak search. or, and they're using animals to do it, the canine. And it's just so odd that out of all of the names they could give a dog, they're using the German Shepherd. But why a German Shepherd when the Germans was allegedly defeated in World War II? Why German Shepherd? What are they doing with those? They was defeated in World War II. So, I mean, these are all things to think about because, warfare is beyond human beings when they're sicking dogs to people, when they're using, lawlessness. You're taking the warfare outside of just, the human realm. They're subverting certain aspects of the law of nature by using natural animals, or who knows, the German Shepherd might be a hybrid. I don't know. But I'm just saying that they're using more than quote-unquote human force to enforce certain agendas. So when they're sicking dogs on people, sitting people in the back of the cop car with the K9 barking off, you know what I'm saying, and all of these things, these are war tactics. But nonetheless, I say that to say this, being this dog, Noble Drew Ali was talking about the real problems that will trump any legislation you're talking about is going to come directly from Mama Nature. You know what I'm saying? When earthquakes are happening and courthouses is falling into sinkholes and all of this, there's no legislation that has anything to do with that. That's straight law of nature. And I just want to put it on this note, or leave it on this note. John Bouvier's Institutes of American Law, I've read it before, but I have to emphasize it again. Enumeration 9 of the preliminary book, it goes in and it says the law of nature or natural law, still correlating with what Noble Drew Ali was talking about, those earthquakes, hurricanes, etc. It says the law of nature or natural law is that which God, and then it specifies the sovereign of the universe, meaning that whether you want to say God, Allah, Parabrahm, Brahma, Yahweh, whatever, we're talking the sovereign of the universe has prescribed to all men, not by any formal promulgation, meaning they can't promulgate a law of nature because it already exists. It's pre-existent. Like you were saying in your class earlier, Cujo, about you can't go to the Moor Science Temple to get your nationality and birthright because the Moor Science Temple does not have nationality and birthright to give. It's yours from birth. And that's no discredit from teaching about nationality and birthrights. But when you know that which just is in correlation with the I am, you tend to stop looking outside of self for different remedies, and it correlates right back to what Noble Drew Ali was saying about, if man was to find his savior, he must look within. So when they start making rules and legislation about, we can do this to people and, we don't need no warrant, and they're showing treasonous acts, that should let you know what times you're in, Like, it doesn't make that quote-unquote congressional, acceptance valid. It's just showing you that these are treasonous people. So, because any laws contrary to the Constitution are not withstanding. That's a fact. You could read Article 3, Article 6, when it talks about the judges in every state, meaning it doesn't matter what law they come up with. If it was time to be, if it was a judicial proceeding on this earthly realm, the judges are bound to the Constitution. That's just what it is. And if somebody's violating that, don't get mad at Moors. Don't be mad at Moors because we told you about what their obligation is, and you went and found out, and then you went and found out they was kicking your ass in certain tactics of warfare. Don't be mad at Moors because the law was exposed. The truth was revealed. Realize who's violating you. And it's not Moors. Nobody have no contracts with none of these magistrates to be violating Moors or to be selling anything on the side. I can't speak for all Moors, but, I'm just saying that nobody over here is dealing with, having anybody subjected to anything crazy from what you was telling me about earlier, Ma. I don't know. But I just want to read this in its totality. Hold on.
All right. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yes.
Yeah. Before we go on, let's just stick to this. We are the natural people, right? And in law, it's already acknowledged there's two types of quote-unquote persons, which are natural and artificial, right? And it also goes on in the definition of, when it's explaining in the Black's Law, the definition of persons, and it talks about natural persons and artificial persons. It goes on to say that artificial persons are only recognized to a limited extent in our law. That's what it says in the definition of persons in your Henry Campbell Black's Law, 4th edition. We're talking the fine print. We're talking like going all the way in, where they're breaking down the definition of natural person and artificial person. So for the natural people, the law of nature applies, not corporate law, not man-made law, not, no legislation, not treasonous acts, not any of that, not class acts, not class actions, all due respect to class actions, not class legislation, shall I say. Class legislation does not supersede the law of nature. So, the law of nature, or natural law, is that which God, the sovereign of the universe, has prescribed to all men, not by any formal promulgation, but by the dictates of right reason alone. We're talking about the reasoning faculty of the brain, of the mind, and man is mind. Meaning that if you're hungry, you will fish, or that if you're hungry, you will plant seeds, or if you know you might be starving, you will make provisions and plant seeds for future times to manifest the harvest or to, enjoy the harvest. So right reason, the dictates of right reason, we're talking natural law, meaning that if you have to get to point A to point B to get to your garden, to give your body the nourishment that it needs, whichever form that may come in for you, and nothing has the right to stop you from following the dictates of your soul and your right reason to get to the food. Whether you got to exercise your right to travel by any means, whatever. Like, this is, what it is. So, again, this is from Enumeration 9, Institutes of American Law. It goes on to say, it is ascertained, talking about natural law, by a just consideration of the agreeableness or disagreeableness of human actions to the nature of man. All right? So, there you go. The agreeableness or disagreeableness of human actions to the nature of man. Meaning that, and pardon me for having to be explicit, but let's say, because we talking or was talking about quote-unquote warrantless searches and the different abuses that they bestow upon our brothers and sisters, including sexual assault, because policy enforcers, a lot of them have homosexual tendencies, whereas when they search brothers or male specimens, like, some of them make it a point to feel on our scrotums and things like that. That don't make us funny. That makes them really weird and against the law of nature, for doing shit like that. Excuse my expression. And that's not promulgated by the law of nature. And sisters got to suffer the same abuses. So, that's against the law of nature when European males take it upon themselves to do that. Even European women, doing that. Because it's not with, as it says, the law of nature is ascertained by a just consideration. Like, not just a consideration, by a just consideration. meaning justified consideration of the agreeableness or disagreeableness of human actions to the nature of man. So unconstitutional search or a warrantless search, and they're filling different sacred parts of your body, that's not a just consideration. Like, that doesn't agree with every man. That's that's disagreeable to a lot of people, male or female. So whether that be employed by, the any type of transit authority, claiming authority under Delaware, Virginia, or Maryland, or whatever, or any quasi-national domicile, it does not give that actual natural law credit. It also goes on to say, and it comprehends all the duties that we owe, either to the Supreme Being, and I want to stop right there to emphasize, Noble Drew Ali was talking about this great sin that must be removed from the land to save it from these enormous earthquakes, like we see with Harvey, like we've seen with Katrina, like we've seen with Sandy, hurricanes and earthquakes. So, if it's not an earthquake, it might be a hurricane, it might be a flood, it might be anything. So we owe certain duties, either to the Supreme Being, it goes on to say, to ourselves or to our neighbors, as reverence to God, self-defense, temperance, honor to our parents, going back to what Noble Drew Ali was saying, honor your foremothers and forefathers, that your days may be lengthened upon the earth plane, It goes on to say benevolence to all, a strict adherence to our engagements, gratitude, and the like. By natural law is also understood the system or collection of those laws arranged together in the methodical order. Now, this is the point that I love to just stand on. And this is the last part of Enumeration 9, John Bouvier's Institutes of American Law preliminary book. It says, the law of nature, not the law of commerce, nothing else. The law of nature is superior in obligation to any other, period. It is binding in all countries and at all times. It goes on to say no human laws are valid if opposed to this, and this being the law of nature. And all which are binding derive their authority either directly or indirectly from it, and it being the law of nature. And then it goes into the law of nations in number 10. So what I'm saying is this: the law of nature is superior in obligation to any other. So when Noble Drew Ali was talking about that great sin that had to be removed from the land, understand that all law or Allah or the universal aspects of what he was talking about and why we see certain things manifested today. Because this is the abundant land, North America, South America, Central America, with natural resources. But the people only get to experience these because they, package them and sell them. And unlike a lot of other nations that are proud, when you get a product and it says made in China, the Chinese are on their national, swag or whatnot, and they're proud of the things that come from their land. The pilgrims have a lot of access to certain, resources, which a lot of nobles who have been esteemed commoners don't have access to. So again, it's back into the law of nature, because I've been talking to some people and they're like, yo, how do we be economically successful? And I'm like, well, I mean, if you really want to know, you first got to really understand what the economy is, what ecology is, the ecosystem. Like, are you really that real? Are you really that ready to go back to the law of nature? Or, it's like a matrix going on. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just saying, from these references, ancient references of the law of nature being superior in obligation to any other, it doesn't matter what they legislated yesterday about violating your rights and touching your persona. You know what I mean? Touching your body to illegally search you. You know what I mean? Like, all of that is unnatural. All of that, unless you're posing a threat to the public, you know, a very potent threat, direct, immediate threat to the public, there's no reason for anybody to be putting their hands on you unless, you know, it's your mate or somebody that cares for you or you love and they love you type of thing and are looking out for you. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no pilgrim, European, or stranger that should be touching you in any of your bodily parts, specifically your sacred parts, you know, in the name of a warrantless search because you were on the public transit or whatever it was, or because you were exercising your right to travel, because it is what it is. The law of nature is supreme. Pardon me.
That's right. All right, Islam. And again, that's true in reference to, you know, in reference to, you know, searches and seizures. But like Cujo said earlier, well, like we made clear in this broadcast, that height right there thing, it has really, we identified what that is. But they do, as Cujo said, they do warrantless searches anyway. But I am convinced, beyond the shadow of that, and the reason is because the prophet himself said, if you do not enforce, if you don't answer up to the national constitution, right, and you do not enforce it, that there will be all any abuses that the other, quote, other citizens care to bestow upon you will be bestowed upon you. And let us face it, that's what the problem has been for these days, for these generations. And we just showed an example of, you know, what we believe. Another thing that, you know, hit me again when Cujo was saying that, you know, they're putting this out and, you know, it's the infiltrators and stuff. They're doing anything to incite you. Now, whether, again, they are being paid for this, not paid for this, it really doesn't matter because you're dealing with slander, you're dealing with libel. What is the difference between slander and libel? Slight difference. One is that you say something that is slanderous to someone, and the other is that you print it. So one is has, I wouldn't say that one has more strength than the other. It's just that one is easier to prove. Now, I'm not going down that road and saying anything like that where we are concerned, but I'm just saying that, you know, that's what's happening, you know, violating Principle 3 for certain. You did bring up something that I've forgotten and wanted to all right, there is this rumor, there's all kinds of rumors, or slander, and maybe libel, if they printed it, and I guess it is being printed, anything public, including Facebook posts, you know, audio, video stuff, that is kind of public. That's a public record. Well, they're saying that RVBey Publications is on the terrorist list. And I'm like, well, I sure would like to talk to whoever said that and let them show me what they know, you know, because we don't know anything about that. Now, we do know, and this is going to be interesting. Try to remember this, Ms., if you can, the commercial we saw the other night. We do know that several years back, the Southern Poverty Law, what is it called? Southern Law Report had us in there, you know, when Moors were starting to really rise, because Moors were getting, in order to change the people, you must change their literature, so said Prophet Noble Ali. And so when that was first starting to happen, you know, like, it wasn't just you, Moors, who were getting information. It was reverberating throughout the land, let's say. And they had wrote in there something to the effect, not terrorist lists, but I don't recall quite what they were calling us, but, you know, they were putting that in their report. But now you must remember now, this is the Southern Poverty Law Report. It's not the law, it's their take and their position. And I will tell you, Finch and Flowers came out of those reports as well, who got sued by the people in, I think it's North Carolina. And, they went on this campaign to try to train all of their corporate county and municipal establishments on how to deal with quote-unquote Moors. But let's bring this up to date in regards to the Southern Poverty Law Report. Guess what they're doing now? They have a commercial, and I know many of you may have seen it. Ms., do you recall what the commercial said? Like, we saw it on the fight that was on the other night, which, by the way, that was, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me just put this in perspective real quick. I'm thankful you mentioned that, because as you was mentioning that, I had to take a quick note on that, because I almost forgot to mention this. All right. So, we don't really tweak out on a lot of sports events like that, but nonetheless, Floyd Mayweather was fighting the Irish boy, or the modern Irish boy, Conor McGregor this weekend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we know boxing goes back to ancient times, in its essence is racially charged, quote-unquote racially charged. Or, more so it has a national tension behind it with certain big fights. You know what I mean? Nations get behind their fighters, their modern-day warriors. You understand what I'm saying? One of the things that stood out to me about this, we're going to touch on that commercial, but one of the things that stood out to me about watching this fight, like literally, because remind you, if I'm not mistaken, Rocky Marciano was their quote-unquote great white hype. He was that dude, right? He went 49-0. Then Mayweather, whether we like him or not, Europeans know that we're Moors. And what his record, so they knew that his record was tied with what they consider one of their best pilgrim fighters. You know what I'm saying? He was 49-0. To break that record or to, relinquish that record, they wanted him to fight an Irishman. We know the history between Moors and Irishmen. But let me say this, though.
But first, wait a minute. Say the name of their that you're talking about, Rocky Marciano, who was 49-0.
Rocky Marciano.
Okay.
He was 49-0. And Mayweather went 49-0 and retired. So all he needed was one more W to break this Pilgrim's record, and have Moors be able to look back at history as, Moors broke the Pilgrim's hype of their best boxer, right?
Yep.
So we know there's been other people who broke that record, but there's no more comparison than between Moors and pale-skinned nations of Europe, or Moors and Europeans, or Moors and Pilgrims. That is the epitome of comparison for most of our people. Like, they don't care that a Mexican went 53-0. And not to say Mexicans are not our family, you know what I'm saying? But let's just say, all right, you don't care if somebody from Cambodia broke Rocky Marciano's record, because, you know what I mean, it's not from the North American land, if you will. So if you get my drift, it's something more important to the people in the North Gate, if it is at all, about these different records. Nonetheless, one of the things that stood out to me, we're going to touch on this Southern Poverty Law Center commercial, but this happens in a lot of fights, but it was clear as day that Conor McGregor, he had a nation behind him. Like, he absolutely had his nation behind him. Even though he took the L, like, Irish people showed up with their flags, bagpipes, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Saying we supporting our fighter, win, lose, or draw. He was talking that talk like, I'm Irish. You know, Floyd never seen nobody like me. I'm Irish. And this was his claim, like, I'm an Irish fighter. You know what I'm saying? You know, the Fight Club, the Irish, the Fighting Irish, the bare knuckles, all of these things. You know, it was certain symbolic aspects that went behind this. So, when the fight, like, when they come out to the ring, there's an Irish girl, right? They got the red, white, and green flag for Ireland, and she sings a national anthem of Ireland for Conor McGregor, right? Because that's the power of nationality. The fighters' nations have to be recognized first and foremost. So Conor McGregor, they had to pay respect to his nationality and allow his national anthem to be sung before he got it on with Floyd, who, you know, is denationalized, but nonetheless of a different nationality than the Irishman, the modern Irishman. So when it was time for, the way I was seeing it, I'm like, okay, they sing the Irish national anthem. I was just like, damn, you know, it would be dope if he had the Moroccan national anthem, because that Star Spangled Banner thing, that's not a national anthem. That is for a banner. So by default, with no nationality, he had to come up under the corporate jurisdiction song. So it showed the contrast, first and foremost, of the power of nationality or of nations, in as though this man was Irish. He had an Irish following. He had the Fighting Irish backing him, even though he took the L sorely, badly. Like, Floyd trashed this man. And we know, regardless of what, whether we claim him as honorable, you know, no integrity or any of that, like that, nonetheless, he's still a Moor, whether he knows that or not. And he put the mittens on McGregor. But nonetheless, in the beginning of that fight, he had no national anthem. They had to sing the Star Spangled Banner for him. But the Southern Poverty Law Center, no, real talk. That's not a national anthem.
I know.
You feel me?
I know.
Like,
go ahead.
From ab initio, they showed the difference in nationality.
Right.
Ab initio, before the first punch was thrown. But nonetheless, right before this fight, we was waiting all night to watch the fight type of thing. And there was no commercials, like 0 commercials, except for right before the main event comes on. And it's the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Singing a different song now.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, and you got to pardon me because I don't remember everything they said, but I was a little upset that they was acting like, you know, they're not for racism and we all need to love and all of this type of mentality, and they use different celebrity powers and images to try to use to get this message across. But what they were doing was reciting a speech of Mandela, of Al-Rahila, as his original appellation was, before his European teacher told him that she didn't want his African name, she wanted his Christian name. You know what I mean? That, like, because remember, he was not born Nelson Mandela. His teacher denationalized him. Straight up. That's a matter of record. That's a matter of record. He said this for the record. You could check out the when we went to the Museum of So-Called African American History and Culture. Like, so-called Nelson Mandela straight up said for the record his teacher did not want his Aboriginal name and that he must have a Christian name, showing you that the personal jurisdiction was based off of these things, and that the colonists, they never really identified as white. It was Englishmen or Christians. So you already know what time it was, and that should be a major lesson to see why being in a denationalized status, he had to serve all that time. You know, even though, because after years he accepted a name that wasn't his. You understand? Among many other things, among many other elements of them just being wicked. But I just felt like that was the ultimate disrespect. You take a prime example of Moors, of a denationalized Moor, being Mandela, right? So-called Nelson Mandela, which he said that wasn't his born name, that he was given that at a European school, a Christian school. You take the prime example of a denationalized Moor to try to promote a message of a hate group calling themselves Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, I tried to go back on the internet and find this commercial earlier, either this morning or yesterday, but I couldn't pull anything up. But what I did come across is that there's many Europeans who are going in on the Southern Poverty Law Center, talking about how they are not what they originally were founded for in these days, you know? So they're labeling people hate groups, and this is more of a hateful act than the people that they're trying to label. So the Southern Poverty Law Center is the hate group in certain aspects, and these are facts. You know what I mean? When they try to denationalize Moors, talking about Moors as sovereign citizens, all of this craziness, and support a message of pilgrims who've been denationalizing Moors even before Noble Drew Ali came back on the scene to tell you you've been denationalized. He was doing that shit. So, you know what I mean? To even try to promote a message of that, and then, look, I'm going to leave it at this, because I talked to Cujo a couple weeks ago, and I respected. He was like, yo, no sneak peeks on what you're working on. And I'm like, true. But I tell you this, these pilgrims, you know what I mean, so-called skinheads and all of that, their original founding, they was not in hate of Moors. They got their culture directly from Moors. And I'm going to leave it at that. So now modern day, yeah, there's a lot of them that went super left field or have been portrayed that way. But nonetheless, you know, there's a lot of people who are about nationality, who are about national principles. Like, look, I talked with a dude from Poland, you know what I'm saying? Like, directly from Poland. And I do have the evidence. And he told me straight up, like, and I got no sense of hate from this man at all. Because he was breaking down to me the World War, you know, how different people didn't like our people, but that wasn't all Europeans. He was breaking this down to me. And he was going on to say that, you know, all Europeans weren't for that particular aspect, slavery, colonization, all of these things. But he did say that as Polish people, they have a strict code. In that code, they do not want to mix with other nationalities. This is what this man told me. And I'm like, look, I respect that. Like, I don't hate you for that, because we don't really want your women anyway. And we hope y'all don't want ours, and we hope they don't want you. So that being off the table, what else can we do? You feel me? Because Noble Drew Ali gave us the same message, that as a pure and clean nation, we don't really wish to amalgamate with the pale-skinned nations of Europe. That does not mean that we hate y'all. That's far from the truth. It's just, you know, like I was saying and gave reference to earlier, the law of nature is superior in obligation to any other. We don't get mad or say lions, you know, they hate all other cats because they don't want to mate with tigers. No, the lion is just being a lion, and he respects the fact that tigers are tigers. But then they all respect the fact they're cats and have a certain instinct that they all can relate to. You understand what I'm saying? But lions roll in packs. Tigers tend to be more selfish. Tigers tend to be more lone rollers. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just who they are. Though they're all cats. You feel me? So lions are going to let tigers be tigers. Tigers got to let lions be lions. And they all got to let jaguars be jaguars. And cheetahs be cheetahs. And all of these things. But the oneness, the uno, the commonality is in the fact that they're all cats. And they don't have to hate each other just because they're cats. They might have common discrepancies and they might have common prey, meaning that lions might hunt deers if they looking like food out there. So would a tiger. So would a cheetah. You know what I mean? So would a jaguar. You know, they have certain same interests, but it's certain things that make them different. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it just is what it is. Like a lion, a pack of lions will take out an elephant in unison. You know what I'm saying? You'll see a pack of lions going for the ankles. Certain lions that jump on the back. You know what I mean? For the most part, though, you'll see a tiger try by itself. And this is what makes lions different from tigers. So when he was telling me that the Polish don't wish to amalgamate and this is their strict code, I didn't feel no type of way about it. I wasn't like, oh, well, you know, that's racist because we equal. No. Y'all are tigers, we're lions, or however you want to see it. Whatever analogy you need from nature to make the comparison. Eagles are not the same as pigeons. Pigeons are not the same as bluebirds or redbirds. But yet they all have certain same abilities but are not the same. And until we can respect that, like, you know, I mean, damn, like, even if I had a pit bull and a Rockwilder, I wouldn't want to have them mate with each other to make a crossbreed. Like, you know, you would need the opposite to keep the breed pure. Who wouldn't want to do that? Like, who wouldn't? So, pardon me if I got too far off track, but I'm just saying that there's a difference between...
No, it's all good. I understand what you're saying, but to conclude with the point that I was bringing is that don't know anything about a terrorist list. If there's anyone out there that knows that RVBey Publications is on a terrorist list, I'm curious about how that would be. RVBey Publications is a publication company. It's like impossible.
Hold up, though. You know what, though? You know what? Before you even go in on that, right? Like,
no, I'm trying to conclude.
Before even accepting that type of slander or libel, like, let's just look at the administration, and we need to put this on soundbite so we could play this at any given moment for all those saying, oh, well, Moors are terrorists and all of this. Yo, George Bush said it himself. He said, people are always looking to do harm to the United States. And as President of the United States of America, this is what this man said. He said, and so are we.
Yes, that if people got to see that to believe it.
Like, that's, he's like, so miss us with that we terrorist shit. Like, no. These people been breaking contracts since the 1700s. All right? 1800s, 1900s. If that wasn't the case, Noble Drew Ali wouldn't have had a purpose to come remind you, you know, who fell into the status or mental status of Negro, black, and colored, that you're not Negro, black, and colored. You believed an illusion the whole time. And what they do, you know what I'm saying? They paint all of our people as some, you know, ill-intentioned people, specifically when they have certain remedies for the nation. Like, so, I mean, you know, we not bothering nobody. We not running up in nobody's house with on some warrantless searches, no warrant. You know what I'm saying? We not on the highway accosting people. What you talking about? Terrorism. Paper terrorism, really? All the fraud shit that they put in writing, all capital letters. You know what I'm saying? void notices to appear in court dates. How dare these Negroes or niggardly-minded people in positions of power, right? Because remind you, you look in Hensley Wedgwood, if I'm not mistaken, Dictionary of Etymology, they tell you the definition of niggardly is somebody who scrapes up money by little and little. So these terrorist, niggardly people who scraping you for fines from unconstitutional aspects, you telling me these aren't terrorists? Well, RVBey Publications is. Y'all are sick
right. So
if you believe that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anybody who believes that is sick, is really sick.
Well, right.
And needs mental health.
Exactly. So
you know what I'm saying? And then hold up though. Hold on though. Let me talk to them real quick. Just real quick, because you know what I mean? Like, I see that for the record. Like, RVBey Publications has done a lot more within less than a decade than Moors have done in the past 20 years, 100 years. No, excuse me. Let me say since Noble Drew Ali left. The history of Moors never went anywhere, but what RVBey Publications has done specifically as far as waking people up, the Moor Science Temple of America, none of those YouTubers, nobody has contributed more information for the liberation since then. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen it. I haven't. And that's not to take anything away from anybody, but I'm saying present day, you know, when people are talking about RVBey Publication is you know, whatever you want to classify them, whatever pilgrim mindset you done adopted to look at your own the wrong way. You understand? You know, if you accepted that, that's on you. But if you're going to accept that and overlook the fact that this man got a size 21 boot up your ass, and you want to look at RVBey Publications as if we're doing something to you, when all we've done was put the truth up under, okay, then there's something mentally, psychotically wrong with you. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. But look, it happened to all of those who came to contribute. Even Noble Drew Ali had to deal with dirty Moors, and even Noble Drew Ali had to deal with those who were saying that or doubting if his program was right and exact or not. And he had to say that. He was like, even for y'all who doubt whether my program is right, forget what he said after that. But the fact that he had to acknowledge that there were doubters, you understand? Like, that energy didn't die. So just as vital as his will and his message of nationality was then, it never died. It's still that vital today. So, pardon me. Yeah, I had a lot to say, but I'm going to yield the floor so we can take callers.
It's all good. It's all good. No, it's all good. It's
Yeah.
all good. I just wanted to conclude this particular portion about this statement of terrorists and say that if anyone has seen or knows or whoever that being is, that you who have heard this through the grapevine or whatever, to please send that. Don't just say it. Show and prove that. Because we kind of want to know. Although we know that's not possible for publications need to be put on a terrorist list. But like
yeah. Hold on, one more thing. My fault. I don't mean to cut your wisdom. Hold on, I'm sorry, but no, this is a conversation that we don't want to let slip past. No, keep this in mind too. That George Bush alleged that Saddam Hussein, all the Mandelas, and he was falsely listed as a terrorist, right? Because he never killed no Mandelas. Mandela wasn't even dead when Bush said that wild stuff. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're still hanging on to the words of these color, this de facto democracy. We was talking about the fact that the hurricanes, the natural law Noble Drew Ali was mentioning about pounding, you know what I'm saying, the Gulf Coast. In the book U.S. Refugees, which is available on RVBey Publications, it was mentioned about the fact that the Europeans have set up a democracy for their modern selves. Like, that's not our government. So, you know, if you or willing to participate in an unconstitutional government called a democracy, like, and don't get fooled just because Trump is claiming to be Republican that they're operating a republic. Don't be fooled, you know, because these are just different fractions of parties. Taking it back to before there was a quote-unquote United States. You had the United Northern States before that. And then you had the United Southern States before that. Before it was just a quote-unquote United States. So you're talking about the Confederates and you're talking about Yankees, right? Or Pilgrims. And, you know, so when you put it all in perspective, all of them, one thing that they both had in common, the North, the Union and the Confederacy, one thing that they had in common is that they didn't want your ass to be free. They wasn't trying to free Moors. You know, and it ain't that Moors were not free, don't get me wrong. Please understand that there were free Moors. But for those who were enslaved and listed as property, even when they had to come to the Union to get protection from the Confederacy, the Union wasn't trying to recognize them as free. They had to use the logic of the Confederacy against them, basically saying that, okay, you said they were slaves, right? Y'all said they was property, right? Y'all succeeding from the Union, right? Well, then that means that any property that you're saying is going to be used against us, because these was Moors who was about to go build another fort for the Confederacy to fight against the Union, but they veered off and went to the Union fort. In that time period, that specific time period, they was like, well, shit, if y'all alleged property and we're beefing with the Confederates, they're seceding, that means that they're enemies to the Union. Therefore, we don't have to recognize any, they're not recognized or legally obligated because it's times of war between the Union and the Confederacy, not necessarily Moors. Moors were just, some Moors, let me say, were in the midst of the crossfire and ended up on other sides. So, pardon me, I don't mean to go on. I know you want to get into callers.
Yeah, you are.
But I'm just saying,
you got some good information, but that needs another topic.
No, it may be, but it is all interrelated, though. It is, because the point I want to make is whether it don't matter what you claim, what European society you vouch for, none of them really wanted to rock out and claim you to be free. Like that, and that's the fact. Like, that's the truth. Union or Confederate, they didn't want to do that. They did not want to do that. So, with that being said, I yield the floor. Yes, it can go a lot deeper because whether they wanted some of us to be free or not, there were a lot of us who were free and who still are free. And some of our ancestors have not ever seen or stepped on the plantation or been subjected to that condition of life. So with that, I respectfully and gracefully yield the floor for us to move forward. Pardon me.
Yes, and relative to that, and I do want to conclude this what I want to ask people to do. But relative to that is why all of this stuff is coming up. I mean, you know, it's like you cannot ever close Pandora's box. It can never be closed, and it is open. And so relative to that is all of this stuff, separation, so-called racism, all these feeling groups, things that are being exposed. Because remember, we were warned that, you know, the truth would be told, or the Europeans would tell the truth, and they are. Whether that truth is something you like to hear or don't like to hear, still it's there. It's hard even now, especially now, I would trust that it's hard, especially now, to dupe the people any longer. So this is why everything is being exposed. And you may wonder, well, what is to that end? Well, what is to that end is just what was told would be to that end. Until love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is applied throughout all the nations, we're gonna have a problem. So that's what's happening now. Now, to conclude this terrorist, RVBey being on a terroristic list, send in whatever proof or whoever told you or wherever you read it. I trust you read it before or you saw it somewhere in some official capacity before speaking it. But then again, someone may have. And maybe they got it confused with, back years and years ago, as we mentioned, Southern Poverty Law Report Center, Southern Poverty Law Center report, which comes out, I believe it's annually, it might be biannual, I don't know what it is, but they had us on there because they were looking at it as some sort of, new thing that popped up and, anti-government, of course they would say that, and without you knowing what government is, you would believe that. That's the only thing we know that comes close. And as I said, and now look what they're doing. Southern Poverty Law Center has changed their game, or at least to their face, what they want you to believe about them. They've polished it a lot, and part of that is, again, because even modern Europeans are attacking them as far as their purpose. Again, Finch and Flowers came out of that, and all of these things have occurred, so now they're trying to change their face and had the audacity to be the only commercial on the fight this past weekend, talking about peace and love and living together. So we changed, thanks to all the Moors out there, we changed their face, and to the modern Europeans who helped with that. We changed their position for certain. They're trying to, change their, what they look like to the public. And then, as you said, use Nelson Mandela's speech. So changes are happening. It's all good. But if you do know that, please send about us being on the terrorists, please send that. I'm not telling you to prove it. I'm telling you to tell us where you got it from. And send it to MHHS Eyes Wide Open at gmail.com. We like to look at that because we already know that our people do not comprehend well what they read, if they read it. Most of our people, not all, but tonight's example of this warrantless arrest, a warrantless search from the WMTA transportation agency that is newly established is proof of that, that we don't comprehend. But part of it is that we don't even read. We just listen to what someone says and we roll with it. This is what you have to do. And had we as a people done this, we can't go back to what would have been, could have been, but we certainly better be on point with it now because these people are trying to save their own ass. And if they can write something and you believe and have faith in them, then, believe me, they will take advantage and exploit it against you. What they're exploiting it against is your ignorance, because it is your ignorance that has allowed them to continue to do what they do. Really think about it. If there's a law of the land, for a national constitution in your land, on your land, and you don't follow and enforce it, all things that any other citizens would wish to bestow upon you would be what you would suffer, and that's what we've suffered, and it's really just that simple. It really is, because even with all of these organizations or all of these what we think are government, they're Christian institutions, and they had to fight to be what they are, and I expressed that last Friday at the House of Ram, and we'll be doing that particular presentation again on not this Wednesday, but the second Wednesday is next Wednesday coming. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we will be reading, starting with Chapter 10 from White Cargo, picking that up. I hope you join at 7:30. But then the following Wednesday, we have to physically be at New York at the National Black Theater, and that presentation will be made there. And I've already tweaked some of it already. So with that being said, please send your proof that we're on the terrorist list. We not because we're not putting you to the test. We want to know, where did you get that from? Send it to us. MHHS Eyes Wide Open @gmail.com. And with that being said, I think Cujo, he had texted me and he had to get off, so he's already gone, I think. I'm looking at an old. No, I'm not. And the internet is going to drop down, but we're still here. You can call in 425-569-5201, and there's another number. And Anahita always has it at the top of her list. I'd have to find it. You can call in to continue because we're getting ready to open up the lines for any callers who have questions. Now, I already see somebody's hand up that has been up for a minute. And so if you have a question or comment, please press 1 on your telephone dial. And please help me out with this. When you're finished with your question or comment, please press 1 again. You will still be able to hear. But to make sure that I don't miss anyone after your question or comment, and we mute you, we're going to unmute you if your hand is up. But after it, please press 1 again. So we will start with the first caller, which is 443-376. You are live on the air. State your appellation and your question or comment.
Peace and greetings, family. I am Hassan Ghazi Obey at Northwestern Maxim. How's the family?
Islam, how are you? We're fine.
I'm doing good. I'm really, really glad that the broadcast is about what it's about because when it was shared with me, I definitely wanted to share it with the family for the exact purpose what your presentation was tonight, because when we know that these people have not been in lawful standing since May 10th, 1861, anything that they publish is just their show of blatant arrogance for, what the supreme law of the land is, which I see as a signal for all the people everywhere, as the prophet said, to, everyone must declare and proclaim their nationality. Because when you're seeing stuff like people are saying that the Fourth Amendment is going to be violated, then one who studies knows, okay, well, you can violate anyone's unalienable and alienable rights, especially when you're doing it as a national or from a national standpoint, or from one who actually, completely knows how to, protect themselves, or knows that the Constitution protects and preserves, their birthrights. So when you come across stuff like what they call the so-called warrantless search, it's laughable when you first actually see it. When reading and analyzing what it is, and you see that it is all corporate, it's just it's almost like them waving the surrender flag before waving it. It kind of reminds me like, they'll look death in the face before, they really, let go of what it is that they're doing. Because when you really look at the spirit of what it is that is being said and written in these publishings, or the House Joint Resolution 76, which I thought was an interesting number, because when we see 76, it looks like Capricorn. So with my mind, it immediately made me think of when the prophet said enforce the Constitution, because it seems like they're always trying to come at this angle of trying to do this threat of, we're going to stop your movement some kind of way. So it's just like, when the people read this and they see it from the perspective of, okay, then that is laughable. That can be used like, look, you can't do that because, look, the Constitution been established this back in, 1791 that, free ingress and egress. You know what I'm saying? Like just different things, of that nature, so to speak. But then secondly, as far as the flood situation, I wanted to speak on as well, because you had touched on some like awesome points, both you and Miz, and I wanted to add to that. My apologies. This is also at yes, I'm here on RVBey Publications. This is Clock of Destiny, Book 2. And it's on page 40, and it's titled 15 Years of Unfavorable Weather Conditions. And it says the influence of the great planet Saturn on the weather conditions in the Northern Hemisphere from 1950 until 1965. So that's 15 years, from 50 to 65. For the next 15 years, the planet Saturn, will be below the equator in the southern hemisphere. So it's saying when Saturn crosses the plane of the southern hemisphere, it affects the weather of the northern hemisphere. Saturn crossed the equator on November 21st, 1950. So we all know that's Sagittarius, okay, and will remain south until 1965, which is consistent with, you know, the 360-degree rotation of Saturn. Revolution pertaining to Saturn, because it takes like 29 and a half. You know, sometimes they round it 30 years as far as Saturn getting around the zodiac. So it's 15 years in the southern hemisphere, approximately 15 years in the northern hemisphere. So it continues on to say this position of Saturn results in falling weather, cold winters, floods, and chilly springs and summers in the northern hemisphere until 1965. There will also be numerous earthquakes. So, with this being said, since Saturn does this revolution every 29 and a half years, if we were to calculate approximately 30 years from 1950, we'll get 1980. So from 1980 to 1995, you'll have the same 15 years of unfavorable weather conditions in the when Saturn is transiting the southern hemisphere. So you would do that again if we approximately add 30 years to 1980. We would have 2010. So from 2010 to 2025, you're going to be experiencing the same 15 years of unfavorable weather conditions. And that's one of the reasons. Like, I remember when I had reached out to Brother Cujo one day, I was just, like, going in on CMBay's work, and I called him. I said, bro, so that means that this is going to be happening no matter what, like, regardless. Like, this is what happens when Saturn transits the southern hemisphere. And he's basically like, so you see why some people don't like CMBay? I was like, man, they're crazy. Because when we know this, you know, we know we can see this not only as far as the floods in Houston, but you know, these things that are happening in the aggregate or basically in the physical or exoterically occurring, they were telltale signs previously, well before they manifested, you know, in the spiritual, so to speak, or esoterically. There were things going on, because earthquakes doesn't just necessarily mean, you know, the land. It's the people too, you know, because we are part and parcel, you know, not only, you know, to the said government, but the land as well. We're all interconnected.
Check how that applies,
you know,
present day. Check how that applies present day. I said present day. Look at how that applies. Saturn just came out of retrograde on August 25th, 2017, Gregorian calendar. Here we are, the 29th, and how long it's been going on? Like the day after Saturn came out of retrograde, or 2 days after that, something like that. Okay, so the math adds up, correlating with what you was just talking about. But even look at back in March, what was it, March 2011, something like that, when Uranus went into Aries. Like, when you study and you know that Uranus rules earthquakes and all of that, and tsunamis and shit, like, the day that Uranus went into Aries, there was a major tsunami in the east, so-called Japan and all of that. So, you know, when you do the Earth maps, you know, the as above, so below, we can see what's happening. It's obvious. You know what I mean? That the astrologics are on point. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And
cycles.
Yeah, it's the cycles.
And you're right,
you know
I was listening. Yes, I was listening, and if you go back, you will see where, you're right, where floods were. I remember during that time, you're talking in 60, I'm not sure, 60-something, even early 60s, there was a terrible hurricane flood storm down off the East Coast near what we call or what they call New Jersey. So, yeah, it's just the cycles, and that's why it's interesting because, and this is why when you go to the Book of the East, it says 7 sages live, and what do? They meet, right? They meet to note the course of nations, people, tribes, and tongues. To know how far towards justice and love the race has gone. So these are the cycles, and this is where we get the opportunity, if we would learn the cycles, to get the opportunity to, to make changes or to correct things. So it just keeps coming around. Okay, where are they now? Because Saturn's coming, and it's going to bring all these floods and stuff.
Yeah.
But
that's exactly how I be thinking about it, though, seriously.
Yes. So, yeah, it's all there. And I wanted to say, when you mentioned earlier about what was being talked about, it's not just that, the warrantless arrest thing or warrantless search thing from a transit company happen, like Resolution 76. We got to understand that, as I said earlier, under the federal program for transportation, they have the right or the leadway to create or establish safety agencies and organizations, whatever. And that's all that they really did. Under and pursuant to, however, for USC 49. So, which has nothing to do with travelers, but we don't know that. We think it has something to do with us. So, it's important that we really get this, so that we know who is who, what is what, and who they're really talking about, not us. So, thank you for your call and sharing your information with us.
Indeed, family, and thank you so much. It was an excellent, excellent broadcast. Y'all have a great evening.
All right.
Peace and love.
All right, thank you. Let's see. The next caller is 346-309. You're on the air. State your appellation and your question or comment.
Islam family. I am RVBey, calling from the Texas territory, and
right.
I just called in, I guess, to add on to what y'all was saying earlier. Out here, it's like when Julie said, "Redeem of the sinful ways," or you have the earth. The wrath. It's like being out here, seeing, how it went. Because first off, I didn't know anything about the hurricane, because I'd be in my own world. But when I found out, I just started thinking like, oh man, these people getting riled up. What does Mother Nature have in store? So, as they raided the stores and all that, just how they were, it was just crazy. It was crazy. So when the first rain happened, I guess it wasn't that bad. And like you said, Mother Ross, that people was like taking it for granted. And then that next day, 'cause I got off work about 8:30, and about 9:30. Flooding. It was already flooding and stuff. I actually had got caught on one of the interstates traveling home for a while, and actually my car took some water and it's overheating. But anyway, it's just crazy that while all this going on, like I have a video where there's a tow truck pulled to the side. I'm on the ramp exiting. The ramp is already flooded, and the people already cars stalled in the water, tried to go through. So it's like a whole ramp full of people who we not just going into it, So I'm watching like tow trucks pull to the side. They recording other than even helping. You know what I'm saying? They recording, watching. We stranded or whatever, and it just came to my head. I also thought about the same scripture. Or the same the same line from the Quran where he says, "Redeem me for the sins, or it'll be the wrath and the disasters, etc." But it's just crazy because it's like they still don't get it, man. Like, they really don't get it. Even when you look at the stores, how they rated the shelves and all that. And I was thinking, I went walking maybe like 4 in the before coming and all that, and just to look at the shelves empty. I'm looking at like sodas, all of the snacks and all that. I was like, they're not even thinking for survival. If it was the last go round, you have a house full of snacks and stuff. Like, you're not even thinking for the long run. Like, and even for the people who taking all the water, it wasn't evenly distributed to the people who actually need the water. So it's actually people who have more water than they can drink. So it's just crazy. I just want to speak on that because the sinful ways, I guess that's what kind of made me dial in, and because actually seeing it, even going through it, having to walk through the water, all of this stuff, we didn't take like any real bad damage, but our streets, they flooded, whole lot of stuff, where
now you talking about this recent at Texas, or are you talking about another time?
No, I'm talking about Hurricane Harvey, yeah.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry I missed that. Wow. So, it's worse than what? Yeah, it's pretty bad. So people were looting.
What's that?
People were looting in the stores and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, like all kind of crazy foolishness, and it's like if somebody don't have bread, they was actually going in other people's baskets and they fighting over, all kind of stuff. Like, it's just crazy because that this is real and we not even conscious of it being real. We still caught up in this sinful activity, you know what I mean? So it just basically it just plays back to, like I say, with Drew Ali. And it's crazy because I was on the broadcast of the Sons of Allah on the one that just passed, and I was telling Miz, I was telling Kuja, I was like, it's like Drew Ali just said it yesterday, got it printed out, and we out here, and this is what it is, the Holy Quran, boom. That's how relevant it is to the day. So even for these people who understanding it, it's really showing you currently in your life, it's not something, that's just, it don't make, it's still pertaining to present life. So you could run from the fact that this man was truly, like, the truth. You could run from the fact, but the truth don't beg anybody to, come check me out, I'm the truth, or please seek me. The truth just stand by itself, and
that's right.
A lot of frauds is going to be thrown around, and the truth may be overlooked, but it's still there. It's still standing there waiting.
Because it doesn't change nor pass away. Because the truth doesn't change nor pass away, and it needs no apologies. It's just what it is.
It sure don't.
Exactly.
Sure don't. So it's just like, I just only called in because actually seeing it with my eyes and being on this knowledge, it's crazy because hearing y'all say it, like these Europeans, and then it's even like how the Europeans is out here. It's like they acting like this is their land, even though we know it's the Texas is a corporation and all that. But even knowing how Texas came about, how they just plopped here, out of nowhere, and then started fighting with that's for the Mexican-American War, all that. So it's like they actually going places, like ruining the land, and we receiving the disaster or the whiplash. So it's like even just like FEMA stepping in and all this. So now these people about to be filling out the paperwork and all this, to restore whatever. but it's they're not really understanding who is bringing the detriment or who bringing the hell to themselves, and that's really us, or the part on us, because we letting them just trample all over our stuff.
Exactly. Yep, that's true. That is true. We're allowing it to happen. Yes. Well, I'm glad that you're safe there. Excuse me. I'm glad that you are safe, and it's interesting because, like you said, you're there and you're seeing what's happening. But we know that they report what they want to report, and even with what they have reported, it looks pretty daggone bad for the entire so-called Texas state. Because, like I said earlier, this storm is walking its way slowly, 3 miles. It's making sure that it makes those destructions as has been prophesied. And I want to say, too, that, as was mentioned earlier about, these are cycles of Saturn that comes in with these floods and things. And that energy, as we said, that energy, taking a look and see how far we've come, that energy of Saturn is a disciplinarian energy, so it's going to come, and maybe one day it won't be so bad. We remove the sins when it does come and bring its energy. It's going to be with a force of, retribution, justice that may be stronger or strong for some. It's like it's the great and dreadful day and things. People say that because that's how it is based on us. It is really based on our energy, and all people's energy, really. And so the destruction is worse where it needs to be once Saturn comes around, because judgment is done. Judgment is done in Libra, the balancing, but the discipline is done with Saturn. And so when he comes around, he's going all around. And you're going to get your retribution, justice, in that. But I'm glad that you're safe. And, it sounds like, you being there, I don't know if there's been a lot of deaths or anything. They haven't reported that. It's not like a lot of deaths.
It's been, I don't think so. And that was another thing where, it's like how people, they trying their hardest to compare it to the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. And I was just thinking, I was like, you don't even know what it was like to go through that, so why would you even want to compare yourself? It's like you're looking for credit in the wrong places, or like you're glorifying the wrong things, and that all come from just, I guess, just being ignorant or not knowing, or being, I guess, awake to what it is that matters. People are, just for like, I guess, sympathy. Like, I'm not saying nobody deserves sympathy. You lost your stuff, I understand. But actually seeing how it is out here, like some of this stuff actually, like y'all say, was supposed to get washed away. Just like in Galveston, it's a lot of brand new houses, propped up on the water, where I know it's not the natural people who are, benefiting from these places and all. This is basically the private sector who they all know each other, and they got beach houses and all this, so I'm not saying that everybody don't deserve some sympathy, but most of the stuff was unclean, impure, and had to get washed away or devastated. Yeah.
Are you near Corpus Christi?
No, actually, Corpus Christi is about maybe 6 hours away from me.
Wow, that just goes to show. It just came across the entire so-called outline of Texas, because it started, I believe, in Corpus Christi, 6 hours away. It's a huge, slow-walking retribution.
A wide radius. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, yes. Yes.
Yeah, it was some tornadoes and everything. Was coming out of the woodwork.
Sure. Keep this in mind too. You mentioned Hurricane Katrina. Like, this whole Harvey thing is happening in the same exact time frame of so-called August.
Yeah.
Exactly 12 years later. Exactly 12 years later. That's a zodiac cycle complete right there, first and foremost. You're talking 12 years from Hurricane Katrina in the same exact time frame. Nothing slightly off, like the same exact time frame.
Nothing at all.
12 years later, with Saturn just coming out of retrograde. I mean, people could play like the universe is not real if they want, but when you're tracking the movements and you're on your astronomy, you see how all of these events, you know what I mean, correlate, and that's a fact.
But look, check this out, Miz.
Yeah.
12 years later.
Same exact time frame in the weeks and all of that.
It started on the 25th. The 25th is the same day that Katrina started underway. So,
no, it was actually the 23rd. Hold on. It was actually the 23rd, but let's keep in mind, quote-unquote, leap years in the extra dates in the calendar. So we look at least 2 or 3 days off, but that's with artificial timing. But go ahead, I'm with you.
But even that, all right, that's the start date. But see, they called it Hurricane Harvey. In New Orleans, Harvey is a quote-unquote city inside of what they call across the river in New Orleans. So when I told that to my sister, I was like, it's crazy that Hurricane Harvey on the anniversary of Katrina. And she was like, wow, I didn't even put it together like that. You crazy? I was like, yeah, man, because like I say, when you in tune, then you start actually analyzing all of these things. Others are just go right underway, unconscious, not knowing the fact of what is basically at hand or what's in the plate. So, yeah, I put that together. Me personally, just coming from that territory and being out here witnessing both, or dealing with both. So, yeah, man. But it was an eye opener to me that I was studying, man. It's like I actually don't watch TV, so I didn't know about it until my family and everybody was, showing concerns. But I know how TV could turn these things, and I don't get caught up in that. I look on more of what you trying to say, what's happening, what's going on here,
What area? What area again did you say? What do they call the area that you're near in terms of the so-called city?
Me, I'm in Houston. So Houston, we got.
Oh, Houston. Well, Houston is the one that they got it bad.
Houston got it real bad. Like I told you, I was stuck on the interstate, because it's like you could be on the interstate, but if you had to exit to go home, everything was flooded, and people was basically stuck on the interstate, stuck on the ramps. Like I say, people, quote unquote, supposed to tow trucks. All of these people come out, but they was recording. Nobody's really helping, and it's just going down. It's just crazy, man. It's like people really. I don't know what is like. What do you care about? What do you really care about? Is it really the uplifting or the helping of our people? I don't know.
Well, it's following humanity. That's what it is. Well, we really thank you for your call, and again, we're thankful that you are safe, and I hope you remain safe. Thank you very much. Peace to you.
Appreciate it. Peace and love, man.
All right.
Peace. All right.
All right. I don't think. Oh, there is one more call. Oh, yeah, Miss B. We have another caller. Oh, this is the one we missed at the end of last week, and that's the 111-111. Let me see. Hold on, you're not on yet. Trying to unmute you now.
Yes,
all right,
indeed.
Can you repeat that again?
Family.
111. I'm sorry. I apologize. Can you just repeat that again? Go ahead. You're on the air.
Greetings to the family tonight. I'd like to touch on that Southern poverty infiltrators that are talking so much, and they've been talking, but they ain't saying nothing too loud. We need to shut them down with our writs, put them on notice, because they are fraud all the way out the gate. We don't like shams, and we ready to put them under forever, because they've been putting out a lot of, incorrect information to the masses. So I just want to tell you, and RVBey is always coming with facts, so everybody better check that. When they talk, they back it up with facts, and that's what counts. And, Brother Cujo, he does his thing, too. He even got the Europeans coming to the forefront, telling you what time it is.
Yes.
So y'all all better recognize, like Drew Ali said, even the Europeans going to come to the forefront and tell you who you really are. I gotta say, I yield the floor.
But you know what? I don't even care to shut them down because they are. We're watching how they changing their colors a little bit. They changing the way in which they wish to be perceived. But yeah, they have been putting out a lot of stuff. But then, again, they're changing the way they wish to be perceived, and they're going to get what's coming to them as well as we all are. Retribution, justice is happening.
It's written in the Bible. It's written in all the books. Whatever you put out in the universe is going to eventually come back to you, whether it's bad or good.
That's correct. That is called
they
retribution.
Every dog gonna have their day, and that's on a high spiritual frequency wise. So this balance on the check-in from the territory, El Moroccan, and I send mad love to the family.
Islam. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
All right?
Yes, thank you.
I yield the floor.
Peace and love. We'll see you at New York next Wednesday. Islam. Let me see. Do we have another caller? No. 443. Did I answer this? Oh, we do. No, 443. Hold on a moment. 443-376.
My apologies. This is Hassan RVBey again.
Are you also on 214?
No, I'm not. I had just hit one last time because when you guys were talking about Harvey, I forgot to mention I had quickly looked up Harvey origin and meaning, and I thought it was interesting that Harvey denotes blazing iron. So if anyone wanted to go and research that and double check that, the Harvey origin and meaning, that's exactly what I typed in the search engine, and it yielded the result saying blazing iron. So it made me think about branding, and the importance of what's happening and how those that are being treated as property are going through as far as what they're going through as far as, refuge and things of that nature. So that was the last thing that I forgot to mention when I called in the first time. But I yield the floor. Islam, peace and love.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, Islam. Wow, I skipped over one call. I thought that was the number that Ghazi called in on. So now I will pick up 214-5.
Hold up, though. Before you take that call, I'm just saying, if Brother Abdul Shakur or his wife don't call in, if we don't hear nothing from y'all by next week, we putting out an APB. And we need to make y'all good down here. Like facts. We definitely need to be good.
It's long.
Right.
To the family of Roz and the need. Cujo is still the miseducation of the Negro. Yes. We put it out there. We got our rings. We got anybody needs some rings. We got a good ring maker down here, and we got a Circle 7 ring. And get what our Moorish obligation ceremony was Sunday. Yes, and y'all know the correct pronunciation for Sunday for the Moors, and we hooked it up. You know what I'm saying? Me, Moorish legit. Yeah, right. We ain't worried about the weather because guess what? Allah had us going on because He know that these Moors in this portion is doing the do, and guess who did our obligation? RVBey teacher, his wife. Right. That's right. Look here, family. We all come together because we all one family. You know what I'm saying? Me, because I tell my wife all the time, out of the 5-pointed star, the first one is what? What is the first principle? Yes.
Love.
And the second one is what?
Truth.
Truth.
And the third one is what?
Peace.
And the fourth one is what?
Freedom.
Freedom.
And I ain't going to say the last one. The continuation to wake Moors up is what?
Justice.
Justice.
And
right.
justice does what?
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
And what does those combinations add up to? And to the human, everybody look like me. You look like me. I ain't seen you on the video. I ain't seen you personally. But guess what? I am going to see you and El, Cujo, and Miz. And everybody that I know, I'm going to see y'all, and get what? Abdul Malik Shakur Bey is going to be there. And guess what? I was a Shakur for Tupac. Now, how about that?
How about that, bro? Your calling was, the timing was so perfect, so divine. You heard what I just said.
I heard what you said, man.
Other words, bro.
And I love y'all. I got mad love for y'all. And I can't wait till I see y'all personally because I've seen Todd, I've seen others, and I told my wife, I say, they next.
All right.
Now, let me get out this. There is an untold and a short and a sort of hush-hush history about the Moors. That's like a big secret. The truth is, the Moors were and are the Aboriginal indigenous inhabitants of North, Central, South America, Mexico, Canada, stand up in the house, and all of the adjoining islands. The ancient Moorish Empire extended at one time, in which it still is today, from them Cabosaurs, Crocosaurs, so-called want to claim Negro, black, and color, and got these so-called sellouts helping branding us and establishing their comfortability. But this, as our illustrious prophet stated, this is a new time and era now. The ancient Moorish Empire extended all across North, South, and Central America. is what? The extremities will bring out the remedies of knowledge that our people need to know through study and standing on the square. Yes, a 45-degree angle, multiplication is into the prospect. 4 and 5 is 9. My mother was born on the 4th month and the 9th day, and she had me. I was born on the 4th month and the 9th day. 9 and 9 is 18. 81 is what? 9. So we're conjoining and continuing on, and next month will be September. Can I have a shout out? What numeral month will that be?
7, bro. No reality.
Islam, Shakur. Now, our divine and national movement stands for the Pacific Grand Principle, as we stated earlier in the conversation: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And our illustrious prophet himself up front stated, I, the prophet, am applying to all law and faithful Moors, members, and the American citizens to help me in my great mission to uplifting acts of uplifting fallen humanity among the Asiatic race and nations. This is our prophet talking. For I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of the divine and national movement. I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names. What's your name? What's your name? To an answer. And you are applying to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America without a descent flag of your forefathers. But now that we are not looking for George Washington to chop down the cherry tree, we know there was a misnomer of fill in the blank to get a capitalized for an incident that was integrated against us to put us in a situation that we will be buried in the coffin of the European ideology. But now we have the seed that has been planted in the earth, and God Allah has reigned upon us, and we have parted up out of those chains and those negative understanding, those European rule captivity, instigated instruction of bibliology. And here we are, we find ourselves. We have raised ourselves up to a limitation unto study. One has came forward, our great prophet, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, and he has implanted and instilled into our spirit, and we have raised ourselves with our eyes wide open. Sounds familiar? Yes, we see what we didn't see before within our inner conscience. And our spirit has raised us up and opened the door of our ancestors, and they have entered in, and they have woken us all up. And here we are standing on a surety foundation. And we know who we are this day. And we no longer claim those titles that whatever the citizens choose to put upon us as Negro, Black, Colored, African American, we are none of those labels and brands no more. For we know who we are, and we walk and talk that of our foremothers and our forefathers who have instructed us through our illustrious prophet. And now, all of us, we are going to this day, going and journeying into 2018. All of us more that have heartaches against other more, but look at the work that they are doing for their people. First, before you walk, you got to crawl. And when you stand to see yourself, you must look at the reflection of yourself to see truly who you are. For only in your spirit, that beyond the spirit that guards your heart, that you will truly know what the work that our illustrious prophet brought to us. The Moabite is the most sacred. She is the key of humanity, because we see on the 101, it is written up on her thigh, for beyond her womb comes the birth of humanity. And from humanity, we, from you, gave us suck and nourishment. And here we are. Here I am, Abdul Malik Sabir Shakur Bey. I give all praise and thanks to all my Moabite Islamism. I relieve the flow.
Islam, and thank you very much. Ooh, got excited.
Islam, no, it's good to know you're alive and well and in full life. Yeah. We heard it in your voice today more than any other time before, bro. And
I love you. I love y'all. I love all y'all.
Islam. Thank you for calling. All right. I think we have you have one more caller, and that would be 410-671. You're live on the air. State your appellation and your question or comment.
Peace, family. This is brother calling from Northwestern Maxim. How the panel doing tonight?
Just fine, and yourself?
All is well.
Oh, I'm fantastico. I can't even say too much coming behind that brother. That was powerful.
He gave us a small portion of the dissertation and lecture, I guess he was feeling good. We're glad that he's good, though, because he's down there in that so-called Texas area. We was concerned about him, but he's alive and kicking. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad for that because y'all touched on some powerful points also with divine retribution, and I mean, we all we got the wherewithal to know that Mother Nature plays a humongous role on it. But I mean, I was looking at a couple of reviews, like reviewing some of the stuff from Katrina and everything, and we all know about HARP and DARPA technologies and so forth. But it's interesting that some of the militarized weapons they got blasting the ionosphere. It's interesting how this storm, it's like it just slowed up right on the coast.
Yes.
It
gathered water. When it slowed up, that was, it kind of tricked people. They thought that it was over, but it was actually gathering up the water from the Gulf. Almost like a station stop or something. and then it moved on and dropped all of the rest of the water.
Yeah, and in Brazil, I didn't know they had a similar situation where the freaking boats, in the marina, the marina was cleaned out from whatever weather situation they had, and then probably like a week later or I don't know how long it was, but within a month the marina was slowly getting filled back with water. And I was like, wait a minute now. Mother Nature, she can have her swings and all. She can have her swings and all, but that sounds a little off right there. But but one of the things to add, I found interesting, since we was throwing a little bit of numbers around, in reduction and reduced gematria, you got flood is 25, and I was like, let me just surf around a little bit, scratch around, and then I saw that hurricane is 52. I was like, all right. And then Miz, he mentioned that Saturn did come out of retrograde on the 25th, and then you got Harvey, and I was like, nah, Harvey is 34 in reduced gematria. So those who didn't catch it at 777, and I was like, why not? I'll just keep going. 7 days from the eclipse, pretty much that was the the shebang. But I don't know. Everything's all divine.
Well, yes, it is, because the eclipse, like all new moons and full moons raised the tides, and we knew this was going to be a much stronger raising, along with everything else. So, the point in time when they, excuse me, after that happened, we knew that it was just going to be something really deeply resonating. So it's to me, it's still the effects of that solar eclipse, the stronger effects of it. Yes, indeed. So, thank you for your observations in numerology.
No problem, family. I don't want to keep y'all. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, we got about 7 more minutes to close the show, and you're the last caller, so We appreciate your call and your information that you shared with us. We will be back here tomorrow at 7:30 reading White Cargo from Chapter 10, and then next Tuesday again here for National Principles. And next Wednesday we will be live at the theater at 125th and 5th at New York, and you can tune in at 7:30 on that one as well. So thank you for your call, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Evening, rest of the day, rest of the night, actually. It's the next morning now. It is 12:24. Thank you.
Thank you, family. Salutations. Otis.
Thank you. Peace. All right, with that, it is time to say good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. Liz, thank you for your participation, and
you already know. Thank you. Giving me life.
Yes.
Talking about.
Yes. So with that, we'll say good night, and see you tomorrow. Islam.
It's not.